Trump declines to release proof. He's not actually donating it. He's a fucking multi-billionaire. What is Trump's net worth? Like $4 billion? And he won't even donate his salary. That's pretty funny, dude. I bet my Skype's not gonna work because of my new fucking mixer memes. Oof. Test, microphone, input. Test probably needs to be this thing. Yeah, that thing. Oh, God. Oh, shit. Change your game to in real life? I just usually put it as not playing. Does it really matter? What was the term that we had? What was it? Demographic suicide? Was that it? What the fuck? God damn.
Hello.
Hey, buddy, what's up?
Hold on a minute. I can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Are you speaking?
I'm speaking.
I can't hear you. Oh, there we go. I think I can hear you now.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, how's the is this mic quality good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Is it echoey? Okay. What's up, Mr. Stephen Bonnell II? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the full name. You just completely
That's
doxed me, dude. What if my name was a secret?
That's a bit. You're even more handsome in person.
Well, thanks, I guess.
So what's up, man? What do you want to talk about? I know we got into a little spat today on Twitter. I have to say, I didn't expect today to go. It wasn't really how I was expecting my Sunday to go, but with life, especially these days, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know how it's gonna go.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I guess it's kind of a brief overview of kind of what I told you. We've been talking about a lot of these issues recently on my stream, and not just on my stream, obviously across the entire world.
Yes.
Cultural issues and everything are at the forefront, both American and international politics. What with Brexit, and now with Trump in the United States, and yeah, it's kind of a lot of shit going on. The gaming community typically tends to lean a certain direction, especially in a post-Gamergate world, where you find a lot of certain things being said. And I noticed that it seems like you are kind of on a certain side of things when it comes to this kind of immigration and culture debate. And
I guess, I do. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I know you have a very, very large outreach and whatnot, so saying you say some things was a little bit troubling. But yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't think it's troubling. I think it's actually pretty common sense. I think the fact that people think it's troubling is what's troubling to me, because I just don't see it as very controversial. Could you? And also, the only reason that I'm maybe on a quote unquote side is because in this day and age, staying on the fence is just useless, because everybody knows that you're just trying to avoid conflict at that point, because we are in very polarized times. So I just like to at least state my opinion clearly. But what is it that you find so troubling? Let's start there.
So I guess it's kind of this general vague defense of Western, or more specifically like American culture. Basically, the problem I'm getting into is every time I read things, and I know that you're going to take extreme disagreement with this, every time I read things, what it always seems to boil down to is I think that this thing is better because it's majority white, and I don't want that to change. And that's like the most important thing. That's how it seems to read out to me that way.
Okay, so that is one way that you might look at the way that, I mean, obviously you can take that from it, but that's really not the core argument. The core argument is that no other nation would voluntarily change its demographics. Now, people say, oh, demographics? What do you mean? It's not a white country or something like that, or demographics don't matter. But if this were true, they wouldn't have such an easy time turning around and identifying who's the problem, the quote unquote white male. They have no problem identifying it then.
In terms of the problem, I think it depends on what particular thing you're talking about. But I guess, so to look at that first statement, so to kind of start this off, I'm not comparing us to any other country in the world. I think that the United States of America is relatively unique in its identity, and that we don't really have we don't have like an ethnic background that is tied to our country. Does that make sense? As in, like, we're not like, if you're from France, you can be French. If you're from Italy, you can be Italian, German. You can be German, Polish, like actual ancestry dating back hundreds and hundreds of years. Typically, as Americans, we are Eurocentric, right, in our ancestry.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's the USA as the proposition nation, but it is a European nation historically. There's just no debating that. When people try to debate that, yeah, there was obviously the slave population who lived here, brought here against their will. So they were emancipated.
The first thing that you just said doesn't really make sense. It was a European nation. Like in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, Italians and Irishmen were discriminated against, like, massively coming to the United States. Like, they were called, I think Irish people were called the inside out Negroes. Like, it was like...
They're still European, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying that we didn't see it that way going back, 150
Well,
years in the
there's
United
no.
States. It's like, well, they're European, they're okay. Like, that's not how we saw it. Like,
Well, we weren't there at that time. I mean, I was born in 1990, well past the. I mean, my dad is Persian, my mom is Hungarian. I'm not. I'm not even 100% white. I'm just saying this as a matter of fact. So when I see bullshit, I just know it.
well,
And
what do you mean by matter of fact? What I'm saying is that as time has gone on, we've seen more and more people be included in the identity of what it means to be an American. So it seems strange that today there's like this massive pushback on who can become included in that demographic. That just seems kind of
okay, I
strange to me.
understand. I understand what you're saying. Well, none of this would have ever been a problem had I guess you could call them the extreme left, started bringing identity politics to the fore. Because when you have a nation is supposed to be a people that are all bound by at least culture, if not genetics or whatever you want to say. So, we're all supposed to feel um, like we're one people. But they started doing this thing where they were like, well, if you're black, you're here. If you're white, you're here. If you're,
Okay,
they
so
basically.
okay, so again, like I know these are a lot of like hot button talking points, but like when you say the left started identity politics by assigning white and black to certain areas, I would say that Jim Crow laws probably assigned white and black people to different areas more so than a Black Lives Matter speaker or Obama talking about a racial issue. I don't agree with this narrative that all of a sudden the left has brought out, identity politics. Like if you talk to minorities in the United States, identity politics has been part of their national identity for the past, since the inception of the United States.
I just don't know that. Well, I just don't know that it's on the same level, especially because
Well, it's not. It's on a much lesser level than it used to be. We don't have
you,
Jim Crow laws anymore. We don't, women's suffrage happened, like,
you're right, and people still manage to create divisions between themselves.
well, because there still exist divisions. Black people are disproportionately represented in prisons. Women are disproportionately represented in certain workplaces.
Okay, but the argument is that it's white people who caused them to be in those places. That's the implicit argument, not that they have any agency of their own to.
Who do you think was responsible for Jim Crow laws?
Well, of course it was white people. Of course, I'm not arguing for Jim Crow.
Okay, well, no, I'm just saying that when you say something like that, like, well, people are blaming white people, which is absurd. Well, I mean, if you go back 50, 200 years, yeah, it was kind of white people that did it. Now, I'm not saying that we need to lock white people up now or bring back reparations or anything, but it seems like the big problem, and I notice this a lot because I watched pretty much your entire discussion with Sargon, is that I know that there are extremists on the left that want to play the blame game and do that fucking white guilt bullshit. I'm not into that shit. I'm not that extreme. Like white people need to, bow their heads and be solemn everywhere and recognize their privilege all the time. Like, I think that's stupid. But it's difficult sometimes to have a conversation about these topics when a lot of white people won't even acknowledge that they exist. When you get white people that say things like, well, I'm pretty sure I could go through your Twitter and find things like reverse racism is a real thing, and white genocide exists today in America and everybody hates the white man. Like, those are pretty charged statements when you have people that are alive today in their 60s who were legally discriminated against in their childhood. Like, those are pretty extreme statements,
Well, if we are going to acknowledge one side, well, this is always a one-sided thing, because if you don't agree that whites are the primary cause of, dysfunction in certain communities, like it has to stem back to Jim Crow, it has to stem back to slavery. Well, I don't know that these arguments can hold up decade after decade. So
Jim
I think
Crow
that's
wasn't
where people.
that long ago, though. Like, when you say a statement like that, like that's
Okay, but there's people who are like 18 years old who are committing a disproportionate amount of crime, and they were born after me. So how do you explain that? Is that
Okay.
Jim Crow?
How? Okay,
Nobody
how
wants
much?
to get into the realistic things. They say you want to have a conversation, but they don't really want to have a conversation. They just want to blame whites more and more. And the
All
more
right,
that,
if you had a daughter that was 18 years old, would you send her to hang out with 400 guys that were all like known like fucking juggalos or people that rape people or whatever all the time? Would you have her hang out in that environment?
no,
Probably not, right? If you had a friend and he had 30 friends that were meth heads, right? Would you be happy with him hanging out with all of these people constantly? Like,
No, but
probably not, right? But the argument I'm getting to is that your environment shapes you a lot, right? If you have a family that dates back, hundreds of years, if you've got parents that help you, parents that take care of you, like, these things have a major impact of your life. If you have grandparents that were directly impacted by Jim Crow, you have parents that were born to people that were directly, discriminated against by the state. I mean, we're not that far removed from these
Okay.
issues. It's not like, well,
Okay.
my grandparents deal with this. Do we really have, like, we still deal with the Red
Okay.
Scare in the West, you know?
Okay, well, the United Kingdom didn't have Jim Crow. France didn't have Jim Crow. We still have riots. We still have Muslim riots over there. And in Sweden, they didn't have Jim Crow. There's still riots in the streets of Stockholm and Malmo and wherever
Well,
else. So you're telling me that.
I'm just speaking.
So at what point do we okay? So Jim Crow, one aspect of it here in America, but as far as the rest of the Western world, we don't have these same precedents, and
Okay,
and
so
there's
hold on, I only wanna
disproportionate
speak-
crime in those communities.
I only want to speak in regards to the United States because everything else is way more complicated. When you get into the histories of other countries and Islam and in the Europe and everything, that's all different countries, or that's all different countries and different topics. So in the United States, I'm not trying to say that no black person is ever responsible for any of their actions whatsoever. I'm just saying that it bothers me sometimes when I listen to internet celebrities get together and talk about how irresponsible black people are when so many of them are born to single parent households with
Like it's not as if we're saying like all black people are irresponsible. That's ridiculous. I mean that is truly bigoted. I'm just saying, like you can't make the argument that whites should be okay with them being becoming a minority in the countries that their ancestors built if it doesn't apply to other countries.
Wait, hold on, whoa, we're getting way different. Hold on. White minority versus other countries. Okay, here, I'll write this down. We're not quite on that topic yet. I'm just saying that if you're not acknowledging that there are problems that exist in these communities, you'll never be able to fix it, right? And one of the big problems I had when I talked with Sargon was this idea that, like, black people just need to fix themselves. Like, I mean, sure, you can say that, but this is going to take a lot longer to get these communities on board when they were aggravated by white communities for so long. You can't just tell a group of people that have been oppressed historically in the United States for hundreds of years, you know, over the course of a generation to just fix their shit. Like, it doesn't work that way, you know?
I don't understand why it is anyone else's responsibility but their own. Do they not have agency? Why is it why should someone else deal with these problems? I mean, that's basically what people are asking of this.
Because we live in a civilization where we all help each other and we have to exist with one another.
Recently, we haven't been acting that way, have we? So
recently we have been. We live in an unprecedented period of human history where more people than ever are surviving childbirth, less people than ever are dying in natural disaster, more people than ever are moving into middle classes all around the world. That's not true. We've absolutely been helping each other. And the thing is, even if you're a selfish person, this benefits you. Why are you moving to the United States and not staying in Iran? Probably because there's more people doing well in the United States, so there's more opportunity for you here than there is in Iran, right? When everybody in the U.S. does better, everybody does better, right? If black communities and Mexican communities get more money... Of
course.
So, well, you're saying of course now, but then earlier you're like, well, why should we help anybody else? Because you don't want to live in a shitty country with...
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they're turning they're turning everyone against each other. And so...
Well, but you're saying that, but it's like, it feels like if you point out a problem, the right is so quick to go, well, hold on, you're turning us all against each other. Well, no, we're just acknowledging a problem, and now we need to fix it.
I would argue that... I don't know. I don't want to get too raunchy with this, but I think what I'm saying is that nobody would ask Japan if it was okay that Japan become a minority Japanese nation.
But we're not Japan, and I don't care about Japan. And also, Japan is one of the most racist fucking countries in the world. Do you want to be like Japan?
This word racist, what does it mean?
It means that the Japanese people thought that they were the superior Asians, and it was part of the reasons why they were so keen to do that shit they did during World War II. Japanese viewed themselves as the superior Asian race, and every other Asian as being subservient to them. It doesn't get much more racist than Japan. If you want to try to draw a parallel to another homogenous society, Japan is like the worst go-to argument. It's also a dying country of people who, because they refuse to let anybody else in, are having horrible problems with their population, who, like, Japan has a lot of, like, world record-setting suicide rates. Like, I don't think Japan is the country that you want to point to as your model homogenous society.
I just disagree. I think it is a model society. I mean...
In what way?
See, look, it's happening now. I mean, what is it that's so offensive about white people saying they would like to preserve their demographic majority. I don't understand. It always gets into these semantics of
because
like,
I
we have
don't
to help this
understand
person and that person.
why is the skin color so important, and why would you drag the country down holding on to it? Like there have been
Well, I didn't start this shit now, did I?
well, there have been contributions by other people to our country that are non-white. Why wouldn't we want to continue to foster this kind of behavior? Why would you want to close everybody out and be like white only?
I think human beings are at the core tribal, and they tend to want to stick to their own. I think it's completely natural, completely normal. And so
But you've already proven that statement wrong in what you're saying, because you think you're a white person and you're half Iranian and what did you say, Hungarian?
Yeah, I'm half
that wouldn't
white.
have been considered a white person 100 years ago. 100 years ago, Irish wasn't considered a white person.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about mass immigration. Like when they want to basically, I mean, they've gone and they've said it on the DNC. What was it? Like the DNC platform. They have that lady that was saying, white people need to shut up and listen. Now that's the kind of discourse we're looking at for the future of this country.
So I mean, that sounds kind of bad, but again, kind
of bad.
Well, that's what I find myself saying to a lot of white people. When you've got white people saying things like, oh, racism isn't real, or reverse racism is the bigger crime, or minorities in America are totally fine. You guys just need to damn, at some point you got to chill out. And yeah, you have to listen to people and figure out what their problems are so that we can move forward in a positive.
This is the problem. When you get condescending, people say, fuck you, I don't want to listen. And that's why you're seeing this big pushback. I didn't start it. And
well, but
this
both sides are condescending.
White.
We can't pretend the condescension only comes from one side, right? Like, Trump is literally the most abrasive political figure.
One side. It does come from one side. Trump is a reaction to the retarded identity politics of the last.
You're talking about reaction to identity politics, dog. Half the people that were tweeting at me in response to what you were saying to me were literal Nazis and white supremacists, like linking me.
Look, man, it's this guilt by association shit. Why don't you denounce all the communists in your movement? They killed 100 million people.
Wait,
what's wrong with communism? Is that what you just said?
Wait, what does communism have to do with any of this?
Well, what do Nazis have to do with this?
The people, it's a political and race ideology. Communism is just an economic thing.
Oh, it's an economic thing. Okay, Nazis were a movement in 1930s Germany. They have absolutely nothing to do with any of this. Americans are the ones who beat the Nazis. So I don't know why we're bringing Nazis into anything.
Because the people that were supporting you identify as neo-Nazis.
I don't care. Does someone replying to me mean that I endorse them? Have I ever tweeted anything of neo-Nazi ideology?
No, but I guess the thing that bothers me is that at some point, if you find that you are in company with a ton of white supremacist, racist people, at some point you got to wonder, fuck, what the fuck am I talking about?
No, these are just slurs, white supremacist, racist. And by the way, this thing that I think I'm white. So fine, go ahead and take the whiteness away from me. Say I'm just an Uncle Tom Middle Eastern.
No. Hold on. No, I'm not trying to take the whiteness thing away from you. I think it's a beautiful thing. This is where we are at 2017. A half Iranian is talking to me and feels like they belong to America. That's a good thing, dude. That's a positive thing. Because like I said, 150 years ago, people identified as their European counterparts. Like, you're not American, you're German, you're Polish, right? It's these things. You're Italian, you're, British, but now we see ourselves as American. There's a ton of different white people in the United States that all see themselves as fucking white people. A lot of people couldn't
clearly people in America. If there is one, let me put it this way: if there is one American in America who doesn't see themselves, and they're a citizen who doesn't see themselves as strictly American, we have ourselves a problem, in my opinion. Because, and sure, if you want to move towards fixing that, that's fine. That's a great goal. I don't think a pure society is possible. I don't think that's possible. But in terms of a demographic majority, I don't know that a nation can exist without one. This truly multicultural, every single person is a different thing or race or religion. I don't really know if that's sustainable long term in a society.
Why not? What's so wrong about people being
well,
around
have you seen the last 4 years, my friend? I feel like people like you, when they're talking about this, they just pretend you gaslight. You pretend that the last 4 to 8 years didn't fucking happen.
I'm not gaslighting. Your side is the definition of gaslighting, dude. You're telling me that there are riots all over Europe and riots all over Sweden. No, they're not. Do you think Sweden is falling apart right now under mass rioting and burning down of?
You ever heard of boiling the frog slowly? Doesn't notice.
I mean, people say the same about Trump's move towards an authoritarian fascist government. I mean, you can make the same argument about anything. Like I said, I mean, the facts back me up that we are in an unprecedented era of world peace right now. But for some reason, people think
that's about to change.
Why?
Because shit's falling apart.
But it's not. You're the one gaslighting now. Do you see?
I'm the
Trump
one
is the one gaslighting. This idea that crime is at a 45-year high, that ISIS represents a threat somehow to the Western world, these are gaslightings by fucking Trump. These things aren't true.
I will give you that perhaps it's a little bit on both sides there, but I still maintain what I say is true. And,
So, like, when I look at society in America today, 200 years ago, men and women would not have been seen as being able to do equal things. That would be a disgusting idea. 150 years ago, Italians, Polish people, Irishmen wouldn't have been considered even white people, let alone Americans, right?
I don't know that
then,
that is just a myth. That's not true. They were considered white. I don't know where this thing that Italians and Irish weren't considered white. That's ridiculous. You seen the Irish are like the whitest people around. The hell, that's just a fucking myth. So I'm gonna take that from you.
Okay, here's a quick. I can't read
thing.
the word. It's white N-word. Okay, I can't read this because we're gonna trouble on stream. Okay, this is what Irishmen were called.
I mean,
in the United States. I don't know if you
need a
didn't
little
think
more
this.
proof than a short Wikipedia article here.
I mean, what do you want? I mean, we're
They
talking
might
about
have
an
called them that,
undisputed.
but they were still white. That's all I'm saying.
They
were not
dude. They
considered
literally
white. That's
had signs in
ridiculous.
the United States that said Irish need not apply. These were less than humans. These people were treated horribly. They were not seen as Americans or even white people. They were called reverse Negros.
Maybe they were a bunch of dicks, huh?
I don't think so. No.
I mean, okay.
So, 200 years ago, women weren't seen as being able to achieve the same thing as men were. 150 years ago, Irishmen and Italian weren't seen as being white people. 100 years ago, black people weren't seen as... It seems like we're making...
Being Irish, or people not liking the Irish, or people not liking the Italians, doesn't make them not white. It just makes them not liked. Perhaps they had some traits that were undesirable. I hear the Italian mafia made the rounds. But look, that would have been a good argument to restrict Italian immigration then.
But we didn't, and look what happened. No, they've integrated
stands.
into society. That's a good thing. Nobody in the United States of America, nobody in the U.S. sees an Italian.
Giuliani took him down.
Nobody in the U.S. looks at Italians and goes, oh, you're Italian. You're not a real American. Look at all of the integration we've achieved so far. Why would we stop at this point when we've come so much farther than we ever thought possible?
Because if it's not working, we should avert course.
How is it not working? What's not working?
It appears there is a lot of conflict. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last election, they pitted non-whites against whites, and they expected the non-whites to vote for Hillary, or you were some sort of race traitor. And I don't know if you want to ignore that fact, that's fine, but that's how it was.
Well, I mean, it's kind of based on their platforms. When you've got somebody like Trump saying that if you have Mexican parents, you can't be a federal judge. I mean, that's a pretty racially charged...
Did he say that? I don't know if he said that. I don't recall Trump ever saying anything explicitly racist. I recall that he said that he wanted illegal immigrants from Mexico who committed crimes to go back. He
also said that a lot of the people that Mexico sends over here, they send rapists and murderers, and maybe some are good people. I mean...
Was he wrong about the fact that we get a lot of crime from Mexico? Was he wrong about that?
For the most part, yeah. I don't think that the majority of illegal immigrants are murderers or rapists. There's no data to back that up. So yes, he was wrong.
If
some of them are, some of white people are murderers and racists. Should we deport all white people?
Yes, but those are people that they're part of. If you want to call, they're part of the American family. We can't do anything about them. But why would we import crime? Why would we do that? It doesn't make sense.
We're not talking
but apparently,
about
if you oppose
crime.
this, you're racist.
We're not talking about importing crime. The fact that you have importing crime as synonymous with Mexicans coming to the United States is a little telling, don't you think?
It has nothing to do with Mexicans. If a bunch of Hungarians came in here committing crime, I would say the fucking same thing, man.
Okay, you saying that it has nothing to do with them being Mexicans, then why is it so important that whites remain the majority in the United States? What is it about being white that's so important?
Look, I'm actually not making the argument that whites should remain the majority in the United States. I'm simply arguing that it's clear that whites are not allowed to speak up against their demographic oblivion. I mean,
it's not oblivion. There is no oblivion. Nobody is walking around killing all the white people.
Says you.
I'm sorry, wait, did I miss the stories where all of these white people are being killed in hordes by Mexicans and black people?
They're not being killed, man, but they're being displaced. I mean, if you...
What do you mean by displaced?
You are the same guy who says that Europeans displace the Native Americans. That's your argument. That's your go-to argument. Oh, you're not a Native American, then you can never be a true American. But apparently, when other people do it to white Americans, it's okay because fuck white people.
Wait,
It's obvious what you're saying.
No, my original point was that I think it's strange that so many people identify as American when your family typically immigrated from another country. I never spoke to whether or not...
Everybody's from fucking somewhere, man. It doesn't make these things not real. Like,
well, sure, but I kind of agree with what you're
British
saying.
people immigrated onto the island at one point before there was anything there. I mean, what is your point?
You're nothing. That's good. You made my point for me. I agree that where you're from doesn't define who you are, that anybody can go to a country and be part of that country. So then why are we so worried about white displacement?
Because it's real. Do you want me to send you a link? Would you here?
What does white displacement mean?
Here, have a look at this chart here. That's what it looks like. You can show that on the stream if you'd like to. They're going to be, I mean, at this rate, you know, the whites would be a minority by 2042.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, why does it matter if a certain skin color is a minority?
Because you and people of your ilk would freak out had the situation been flipped. Had the situation been whites colonizing a part of when the Chinese did it to
Tibet. Wait, we're not colonizing anything. These are people legally immigrating, legally belonging.
Why when the Chinese, were trying to colonize Tibet or whatever it was, trying to go into Tibet, why was that, a save Tibet situation? But when
I don't know anything. I don't know about the situation in Tibet and China. I'm talking about the United States of America.
Okay, well, I'm using a metaphor. What do you call it? Allegory, metaphor?
Analogy.
And I mean, sorry, geez, I'm dumb. I'm using an analogy to try to, give a parallel situation so you can see the hypocrisy.
Wait, what is the hypocrisy? I don't care about other countries' standards. I'm not concerned with them. There is no hypocrisy between saying Japan can be racist and America can't, because I'm American and I have my American beliefs and ideas. Japan has other beliefs and ideas. I understand that. I would never go to Japan and tell them to change the way their country works. It's their country.
Okay, let me ask you something. Do you consider the European colonization of Africa to be a bad thing?
Yeah, that's a very, very complicated...
It's only complicated because it's whites.
No, it's not. It's really complicated because in a lot of ways Africa's been exploited by different imperialist countries, and in other ways Africa has grown a lot in different economies because of their trade with these countries. That's a really, really complicated question. Africa is still lagging behind a lot of the world for a lot of different reasons, but they have been catching up and making great progress over the past 20 years. It has nothing to do with skin color or white people. I mean, you could look at it through that paradigm if you want, but that's a really complicated issue.
I'm just saying, if white people go to South Africa, they colonize there. It's the white people encroaching on the Africans' land, and they should give it back. But
we're not talking about colonizing or imperializing people. We're just talking about immigration in the United States.
What do you call a large number of people from one specific place coming in, setting up their own ethnic enclaves, and then waving their own flag inside of our nation? What would you call
setting
that?
up your own ethnic enclaves and waving your own flag? I'm pretty sure we have a lot of Mexicans that come to the United States that are living in the United States that wave American flags and are proud to be American.
Yes, of course there are some, but not. There are also large swaths of them who don't feel that way, who want to break parts of America off back into Mexico. So what would you say to those?
Okay, so just to put your argument on paper, you think that there are people that risk rape, murder, and theft, leaving and fleeing Mexico to come to the United States, whose ultimate goal is to secede part of the United States back to the place that they fled from?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
You think that there are people that risk rape, murder, and theft to try to get their families from Mexico to the United States so that ultimately they could get back to the United States just to secede part of it to Mexico. They want to break it off and go back to the land that they...
Man, I'm not going to speculate on why they did what. All I know is what they are doing. And...
Whoa. You just speculated, though. You said that they wanted to...
No, I didn't speculate.
You said they wanted to come here and break off... Where are these movements of Mexicans trying to get, Texas to go back to Mexico? What?
When you have these illegals coming up and getting so bold to say, try deporting me, Trump, that's a sign of a problem. By the way, it's inarguable that the locations from where people have immigrated has changed. Up until, I believe it was 1965, it was all Europeans, and now most of it is from Mexico. And by the way, they're even going into, I believe, the African Americans areas and pushing them out too. So it's not just white Americans that are affected by this kind of thing.
I'm not
so
affected. I don't understand what you. This is what I'm trying to get back to the original question. What do you mean by affected? What's so bad about a certain type of people immigrating to a country? Like, back to the original question. Why does it matter if white people become the minority in the United States? Why is that a big deal?
Man, come on. Come on, man. I mean, look, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. That's how people work. That's how all
No, it's
peoples
not.
operate.
That's not true. Maybe that's how racists work. This is where the word comes from. Well, I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to get you to tell me what, because that's all I can go on right now, because you're not giving me more. I'm asking you, why does it matter if white people are the minority in the United States? And you keep like kind of laughing and go like, well, is it because brown people are worse than white people?
No, of course it's not because brown people are worse. It's a matter of integration. If they immigrate, they need to integrate. But also, we don't need to take immigrants from incompatible places. It doesn't make any sense.
But that's the beautiful thing about America, dog. There is no incompatible place that people can't come from.
Oh my God, man. Okay, well, I mean, if that's...
I mean, we're the most diverse country on the planet, dude. Like, you can't argue with that. We're also arguably the most successful country on the planet, at least in terms of overall size of the economy, although we definitely have problems. We are definitely the most influential country on the planet. I mean, when we are the most diverse country on the planet. Like, these are inarguable. Why are you laughing? Like, oh, well, are we really? Like, no, it's like, you're acting like we're like 99% majority whites, and now we've got like a little bit bogging us down. Like, that's absolutely not true. Like,
the country was something like 92% white in 1950. It's changed now. It's about 60% non-Hispanic white, I believe. These are epic demographic changes, unlike what I don't know if it's ever been seen in history, maybe in some invasion in the 1500s. But look, these people see themselves, I'm assuming, as Mexican. I don't know that they come here and the soil magically turns them into Thomas Jefferson's direct descendant. So why is it that white people, especially white Americans, resisting their own displacement is racist?
Because you're talking about displacement. I'm trying to figure out what the displacement is. Nobody is killing white people. Nobody is moving white people out.
It's a soft displacement. Dude, and when they become the majority, they will vote in their own interests. They won't vote in white Americans' interests. So
what is
white
a white
people have
American?
a legitimate...
Wait, what is a white American interest? Can you give me an example of like white American legislation or white American?
My friend, there is a clear divide in the way that people think. White people tend towards the libertarian side of things, and at least the first generation Mexicans vote heavily in terms of government handouts.
If that was true, then why are red states the one that leech all of the federal money? Then, if red people believe
I don't
that Republicans,
know that that's true.
It is true. It's absolutely true.
Well, if that fact is true, I need to look into it. I don't know about that.
Do you think that like a country like, do you think that a state like California is taking more federal aid than it's giving back in taxes? Red states absolutely leech money off of the federal budget, and blue states are typically the ones that contribute to it. And even within red states, blue cities are typically the ones contributing the vast majority of the budget and the money compared to the red rural areas. So I don't understand.
What state is it that leeches? Are you talking about southern states or something like this?
Sure. Yeah, the red states typically. The Alabama is the Louisiana is the...
I mean, these states have high non-white populations that I believe... I mean, I don't want to get into... I don't want to...
well, look at what you're saying. You're saying these states have high non-white populations.
Yeah,
then why do they vote Republican? I thought you said these people have voted Democrat.
They do.
Okay, so they've got enough non-white people to vote, but they vote Republican?
I believe those states have a lot on welfare, but I don't know this for sure, so I don't want to... I don't really know about this one. I will defer this one to you. I don't know.
Okay, but then you said earlier that most of the Republicans were libertarians or whatever. I don't know. That just seemed like a strange...
No. We see a different voting pattern. At least, look. Even if it doesn't have to do with race, even if it doesn't have to do with national origin, even if it didn't have to do with these things, we see a discrepancy in the voting patterns between the different groups in America. So when you see that it becomes stacked against the majority population who is discouraged from voting in their own interest.
Wait, what does that mean? I'm trying to figure out what does it mean. What does it mean to vote against your own interests? What are white interests that get voted against?
I don't know what reality you're living in, man. I mean, when the news is telling you that a vote for Donald Trump is a racist vote, okay, and Donald Trump, all that he's saying is perhaps maybe we should keep
hold
America
on.
the way it was.
So well, first, that's because that's an incredibly stupid statement to make. Most of what
Okay,
Donald Trump
says you.
Well, okay, when you say make America great again, what time period are you referring to that you would want to return America to?
Look, I don't think that this is a really silly question. I mean,
Well, wait, you just said he wants to make America great again. He wants to go back to keeping America great. What time period are you talking about?
I said preserve. I didn't say go back.
Wait, preserve as it is now? Because I thought you said there weren't enough white people now. Or do you mean like just exactly right now?
You said that. I didn't say that. I
You
never
said that whites
any...
were becoming a minority. You said that it wasn't
They
good.
are becoming a minority. So listen, if the people can't integrate in and feel as if they're all one people and truly, by the way, now this whole melting pot thing, that would require that they, become part of the greater whole and don't form enclaves, because then you get balkanization. You don't get this utopian melting pot. So
yeah, but in the United States, it seems like we've done a pretty good job of melting a lot of different cultures together, no?
It could have been worse, but it's not perfect.
I mean, I can go down the street and I can eat 50 different million types of food. I can turn on my radio and hear music from 50 million different types of culture. I could turn on the TV and see 50 million different things. I'm sure that if I walk around my house, I've got things built in Mexico, built in China. You're talking to me on a computer. So you've got, innovation from California that has a lot of East Asian workers in the tech field working there that have shipped their parts over from China, who probably drive to work on cars built from parts that are shipped in from Mexico. Like, I mean, what do you mean it doesn't work? Like, I don't, what are you seeing? I'm trying to understand your worldview. Like, what are you watching that's showing that, like, America is falling apart and all of these people are killing themselves and murdering white people and everything is going to shit? Like, what are you seeing that shows you this?
My friend, I don't know that you, I feel like these are words you're putting in my mouth. I never said
no,
white
I'm trying to understand. Where is it coming from?
There is an absolute disproportionate amount of crime committed to whites by non-whites. That's there's no arguing that. That's just FBI statistics. So in that sense, you could say, well, why shouldn't the white people be able to address this? But they're not allowed to, because they're called racist by people like you.
If you wanted to fix crime in the United States, the best way to do it would be to deport all of the poor people, because poor whites commit a lot of crime too, disproportionately compared to wealthier whites.
That's just not true. But okay,
wait,
you can
hold on,
say
wait. You don't think that
Well,
poverty...
yeah, of course. Well, yes. Okay. In relative
terms,
to
yes.
in relative to wealthy whites, yes.
Sure.
You're correct.
Okay, so do you think that poor blacks probably commit more crime relative to wealthier black people?
They do. Wealthy blacks also commit more crime than poor whites. That's a fact.
Wait, what?
Yeah, look it up. Give me a sec. I gotta get water.
Does anybody have a source for that? Fuck. When people make extreme claims, I don't even know how to... Fuck.
It's true, man.
I've never heard that in my life, dude. I've never seen that ever posted. I'll have to look for it later. I see an article written that says poor white kids are less likely to go to prison than rich black kids, but I'm pretty sure this is...
says who? That's just some conjecture.
I mean, what you just said was conjecture.
That implies that the court system is somehow racist.
The court system disproportionately, even when controlling for socioeconomic factors, sentences black people typically for harsher sentences compared to white people, even when you control for the crimes. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
You're saying, I mean, this is just ridiculous. That they're going to sentence... I don't subscribe to that.
I mean,
that's the whole court system is biased, is racist. That's the same thing. So let me ask you this. So on one end, you're saying race doesn't matter. On the other end, you're saying race does matter. So which is it? People like you can never say, because you just want to.
Wait, hold on. I'm saying that it would be nice if race didn't matter. Is it been essentially my entire argument?
Okay, but it would be nice if a lot of things were.
Okay, you're the one making the argument that...
I had a fucking $1 billion.
You're the one making the argument that race is literally paramount, that it is the most important thing.
It is not the most important thing, but why is it so bad for... You're acting like the white people would just want to, purge the lands or something. It's not true. Just why
no, I'm not talking about... I'm just... Back to my question that I keep trying to get an answer. I just don't understand why it's so bad if white people become a minority. Why is that such a horrible thing?
Nobody wants to become a minority in their own country, man.
Why?
No,
Why does it matter? I don't consider myself a
because
minority because I'm an
my
American, and
friend.
everyone around me is an American. Why does it matter if they're white or brown or black?
Well, that's not. I don't. I don't think that's how. I don't know how to answer this.
Like, it blows my
Why
mind
is
that
it bad? Why is it bad on the flip side? Why is it bad if they remain a majority? Like, why?
because you're talking about excluding potential labor,
I am not
potential
talking
talent.
about excluding.
When you talk about keeping whites the majority, the only way that you're doing that is by what? Barring immigration from people that are brown? Is it that's the only way
So,
you would do it, right?
no, look,
Or how else would you do it then?
I mean, so basically, you're saying that it sounds like you think the end game is that whites should become a minority.
No, I think that the end game is let people do what the fuck they want. We keep letting people immigrate. I mean, whatever.
So
whatever
why
happens.
you see you are constantly projecting this ideology of nonstop immigration from, say, the third world. What if Americans of any color, by the way, not just white? I should specify it's not just white people that feel this way. You think a Mexican who comes from Mexico probably wants to move to America, not move back to Mexico. You understand?
Sure.
So it's in literally everyone's best interest. That's what I'm trying to say.
Wait, I don't understand that the sequitur. What do you mean? A person from Mexico wants to?
What I'm saying is, let's just say that we admit a Mexican immigrant to the country. Now, does that Mexican immigrant? He's probably leaving Mexico because he wants to move to America, which is, in his eyes, probably a better country. Let's admit. But if swaths of illegal immigrants pour across the border, we can't do anything about it under pain of being called racists. When that Mexican immigrant steps into America and sees that nothing's changed because the Mexicans have brought their Mexican culture with them, he says, "What the heck? What did I spend 3 years trying to get, my citizenship for this?" Or what? I don't know how it works.
So is the argument that Mexicans immigrating to the United States are going to turn it into Mexico?
Yeah, pretty yes.
If they were happy with Mexico, why would they come to the United States?
Because the better handouts. A lot of them are on welfare. You understand?
Have you ever in your entire life drove through a neighborhood where there are construction crews working or where you see people outside working? If you were to talk to anybody in manual labor, you would never hear the argument passed around that Mexicans are lazy and on welfare. They do some of the toughest jobs available in this country.
Yeah, dude, you're just virtue signaling. Man, I get
How
it.
am I
Not all
virtue
Mexicans-
signaling? What are you talking about?
Not all Mexicans are going to go on welfare. I understand that, but a lot of them are going to commit crimes. This El Salvadorians are going to create the MS-13 gangs. What about these guys, huh? You just want to let these guys walk over the border?
Sure, and white people can do it too. That's why you have law enforcement. That's why you
They sure do, but their crime rates appear to be lower, and I don't know.
But that's not true. Immigration isn't even a predictor of crime in the United States. Things like level of education, whether or not you're in a single-parent household, your socioeconomic position, these are all much greater indicators of crime than whether or not you're an immigrant. Like, why not work on these things rather than say, well, no immigration because some of them are criminals? Like, that just seems silly. Why would you hurt your entire country doing that?
What I'm saying is, okay, your argument is, by the way, a lot of these people come to make money, send it back, and then go back. That's just true. So they have no long-term investment in this country, even though, apparently we like to think of ourselves as the all-amazing first world United States. But a lot of them do have the interest just to come here for what money they can make or get and then take it back. But that aside, what was I going to say? Shit, what was the last thing you said?
I don't understand if you just want to like block off all Mexicans from coming to the United States or...
No. What I'm saying is the argument here is that we need an influx of immigrants because if we don't, the white they always say this, the white Americans, they do the jobs the white Americans don't want to do. That's not true. They just get pushed out because they flood the job market and they're willing to work for less because it's a higher standard compared to where they came from. And they lower the
Okay, hold on. Do you consider yourself a libertarian? Do you believe in the free market and all of that?
I wouldn't consider myself a libertarian, but I think some of their ideas are good.
Like which ideas? Do you think that like free market and all of that is a good thing?
Of course, but I don't think all people are interested in the free market.
Okay, so then why are you so opposed to expanding the pool of the supply of labor to companies in the United States? I don't understand. You're talking
Well, yeah,
about
you
bringing
want
in workers to the United States to help grow the overall economy, right? Well, I don't understand how this is a bad thing. Are you, like, from an economic point of view, is that the argument you're making?
I'm saying that when you bring in a bunch of workers who are willing to work for less, you're going to lower the standards of the living standards of the entire country. And this
But that's
argument
not how
that
living standards work. If you bring in
excuse me?
people that are willing to work for less, okay, that means that the supply of the cost that goes into making the product is dropped as well, the cost of goods or whatever. So you can also sell products for cheaper as well. It's why we get cheap shit from China and Mexico and whatnot. If you brought in a bunch of cheap immigrant labor to create some product, then the cost of that product will get cheaper. No, doesn't that help increase the standards of living as well?
Yeah, you can sell out your society for a quick buck if that's what you're saying. Yeah, no, but there's
It's not a,
such
so.
things.
If you want to buy an iPhone for $3,000.
Look, I don't think mass consumerism is the answer to our problems. It's obviously.
So you think lowering the standard of living for everybody is the answer to our problems? We should make
No.
everything more expensive again?
No, I don't think it's not that. It's just that I think that there is something to be said for preserving a culture, giving a nation a continuity. These
What
are
is that? Yeah, but
legitimate.
we have that. We're American. That's our continuity. That's our culture. It has nothing to do with being majority white.
You can say that, but these days, what, the Confederate flag has been banned. They're burning American flags in the streets. I don't know. It's a changing nation, and I do think that immigration policies that haven't been the smartest are partly to blame for that.
I guess, like, I just don't understand how you think that, like, being white is such an important part of being an American when you're
I
half
don't. I'm
Hungarian.
not even fully fucking white.
Then
I
why
don't.
are you so worried about whites not being a minority in the United States or whatever?
It's a principle. Why is it bad that they remain a majority then?
Because I've already said why. Because you're talking about restricting immigration from a ton of different areas in order to
Why
ensure
not?
some...
Why do we have to take immigration from all these areas?
Because it
Why?
helps grow the size of the economy and it brings talent in from other areas to continue to benefit the entire country.
It benefits the global elites. That's the only people it benefits.
Dude,
it doesn't benefit.
you make like millions of dollars making YouTube videos. You don't count as a global elite? Like, what are you talking? Are you like the working man now? What the average middle lower class citizen has benefited more from globalization than any other person. Poor people have cell phones with amazing technology in them because they're manufactured in China. Everybody in the United States can afford a car because we get cheap manufacturing from Mexico. Like, what do you mean the global elites are causing immigration? Like, that's your defense?
No, I'm just saying I don't see how this. By the way, look, we're arguing in gigantic generalizations. I understand that I'm putting.
We can
so
argue specifics about anything if you want. I mean, I know all the specifics.
No,
if
no,
you
no.
wanna
That's
get into
not. That's not. What I'm saying is, like, of course, there's going to be some real standout immigrants from these places. I'm just talking about the principle of not being displaced.
But you
because
still haven't explained to me the principle. Why is it so bad that white people become the minority? I don't understand the principle. Why is it so bad?
Listen. That this is just not how things work in reality. Like,
What does that mean?
what it means is that people are tribal. If you look at Yugoslavia, that's a nation of a nation of all white people, and it balkanized and it broke up in a horrific war of sorts into, what is it,
I'm
Croatia?
not talking about the Balkans. I'm talking about the United States of America. Go to Las Vegas. Go to any place with a ton of people, a big city. You'll find people of different races, of different religions working together, coexisting together perfectly peacefully. Like, you're acting like this never happens, and it's like inevitable that some massive civil war will always break out. It seems like the only way it would happen is if everybody believed what you believed, and that you have to keep majority white status, otherwise, like, shit is gonna go to hell. I don't understand.
Listen. Even though the mantra has. I mean, you're just arguing based off the old paradigm, which is that if you
I'm
don't
arguing based on historical data.
I don't think you're arguing off data, because if you're arguing off data, you wouldn't be saying the things you're saying.
Wait, what have I said that you think is wrong? Factually.
I mean, who in Europe is causing riots
I'm not
currently?
talking about Europe. I'm talking about the United
Okay.
States.
It all is interconnected, dude, because Europeans are the ones who founded this country, and they came from Europe, and Europe is having similar problems. So when you look at the parallels, you can understand. I don't even know what you mean by historical data. There's never been anything like this.
I'm just curious what you said, what I've said that you think is factually incorrect.
You're just deflecting.
I haven't deflected anything. You're the one that's hopping from topic to topic.
Every time I bring up Europe, you say I'm not talking about Europe. But if
because
you're talking...
the things that you're saying about Europe are really misinformed, and I don't want to jump into like a massive discussion on individual. You can't even group these countries together. The problems that Germany is facing is going to be much different than the problems Sweden is facing. The problems in Sweden are going to be way different than the problems in the United Kingdom, who was part of the EU, who had different agreements than these other countries part of it.
It's interesting. You're right. They would be facing different problems, it would seem, but they're all facing a very similar problem, which leads us to believe maybe there's a pattern here. That's what I'm saying.
What's the pattern?
The pattern is that when you have mass immigration from countries that don't value liberalism and don't value equality between the sexes in the same way that Western countries do, for whatever reason, they will affect the overall culture. And that's what's happening right now in the West. And how many terrorist attacks are there in Japan?
If that was happening in the West, then why are we why do we have more rights for different types of minority groups than have ever existed in all of human history across the West?
Because, you just proved my point. Because the Western countries have incredibly liberal values and do not value
and they've held on to those liberal values even though all these brown people are moving in. Even though
who do you think is going to uphold those values?
The people that immigrate here, that are raised here, that believe in the same values that we do. Do you think that every Mexican in the United States... it seems so, because they're not all vote. I don't see Mexicans outside protesting abortions. That seems to be a white Christian thing. I don't see Mexicans outside, fucking protesting against gay rights. That seems to be a white Christian thing. Where are all of these Mexican groups protesting against civil rights and whatnot? I don't see this happening.
Now, there are a small minority of Christians who might do that, but we're talking...
If you talk about anti-abortion rights in the United States, do you think it is a minority of Christians? Where do you think the majority of these people come from?
Muslims, for instance.
You think that Muslims are the main opposition to pro-choice women's rights or whatever in the United States?
No, not in the United States, because there aren't that many of them here, but there are a ton in Europe, which is the crisis that they're facing now. And these people don't have...
I'm not talking about Europe, I'm talking about the United States.
Okay, but Europe and the United States are interconnected in the same thing.
But they're not. They're very, very, very different places. Very different problems. Extremely different. Yes.
Oh, wow, very different.
You know that in Europe, if you go to Europe, there's no such thing as white people, right? You know nobody says that, right?
I understand that Europeans see each other as different groups of Europeans, but at the end of the day, they understand each other as Europeans, and they know where those borders lie.
Even people who live in the United Kingdom don't all see themselves as being like.
I'm aware that Europeans see each other differently, and it's an American thing to brand all Europeans white. I understand that, but that just proves the tribalism thing. It's real.
But it's not. It's obviously not, because if you go to the United States, all the white people do see themselves as similar. So obviously the tribalism is they've gotten over that part there.
First of all...
Also, no European at the end of the day. Do you ever see yourself as a North American? Do you think Americans ever, at the end of the day, like, I feel like a North American at the end of the day? Like, I'm the same as a Canadian and a Mexican.
I do believe that we are different from Mexico, but very similar to Canada.
Because we're whiter?
No, because our countries derive from the same culture and had the same similar founding stock, at least. But I will say, that's a big reason why all these. By the way, Europe and America, it's not different. Even though you say it's different, it's not.
What do you think is similar? It's totally different. We're incomparable places, dude. The United States is a massive country that has a massive border to the south of an unstable country. It's way different than, say, the United Kingdom, right? Who wasn't even having serious immigration issues, whose entire economy in place in the EU makes them a very special country, which is much different than the country of Germany, which has had a massive budget surplus year after year after year, even after taking in fucking 1 million fucking refugees, which is massively different than any of the Nordic countries, than Sweden, Finland, Norway. All of these places are all very different. It's a very, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's a very American thing to say all of these European countries have the same problem. That's so not true. The issues that white people face in fucking Northern Ireland is going to be way different than the difference between Southern and Northern Italians. All of these problems are massively different. You can't group all of Europe's problems in together and say they're the same thing as all of America.
They're different, but when you compare cyan and deep blue next to red, the bluish colors tend to look a little bit more similar, don't they? So my point is that they're all facing similar problems, coming from a similar part of the world. What does that tell you?
I don't think they're facing similar. This is why I didn't want to.
Then you're not informed. And the people in America want to stop that from happening. Now, Hillary Clinton wanted to speed up the refugees coming here. And of course, that sounds good to people to say, of course, who doesn't want to take refugees? It's a great humanitarian thing to do. But at what cost? Are
At
these
what cost, dude? How many refugees have committed crimes in the United States? Do you know how many?
Well, we don't have the same migrant crisis as they do in Europe because they share
because we're completely different countries with completely different problems. Do you know how many refugees have committed crimes in the United States?
Ay. You are impossible, man, dude.
Because I know the data. Because two people.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. Because two refugees in the United States were arrested for potentially funneling money to people in Iraq out of the 800,000 that have brought in. I know the numbers, dude. That's why it's frustrating to argue with somebody that wants to speak in generalities. Like, because you have this very strange, bizarre worldview that everything is falling apart, that everybody experiences the same problems, when that's completely not true. That's the narrative being sold to you by people like Breitbart, by people like the Spencer dude, by people like I don't understand. But so I'm trying to get a feel of your worldview, but you can't give me like any specific examples or facts or figures. So like it's really hard to.
I am giving you an example. I've given you example after example.
What examples?
White countries that are experiencing it is basically in white countries, historically white countries, it's seen as a moral imperative that whites don't resist their own displacement. If they resist it, they're racist. That is what I'm talking about. You can see this in every white country on planet Earth.
I don't understand. But again, going back to the central question, you can't tell me what's so bad about white people becoming the minority. You still haven't answered that question.
I have answered it a million times. No people wants to become a minority in their own country if they don't have to. They shouldn't do it.
Okay, but the people of America aren't.
What does it do to look nice, to be nice? What is your argument that it
I guess when I look at what it means to be an American, being white doesn't seem to be part of that definition. So when you say to become a minority, I don't understand this massive division on racial lines. Like, I have to have this many white people in here. If there are too many blacks or browns, it makes me very uncomfortable. Like that, I thought we were all Americans. I don't understand where this white, black, brown thing comes from.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you. That is how we should see each other as Americans. I do agree that. But also, we're dealing with something that's not that. We're dealing with a political paradigm, or we were at least. We still are. The status quo thinks that the only logical conclusion to the country to atone for the sins of the white past is to keep letting in people from the third world until white people are a minority. And that's what's happening. So if you can deny it all you want, but that's what's happening.
Why are places like California that deal with more immigration than I think any other even individual country in the world aside from Russia? So why is California the strongest economy in the United States when they have the most Mexican immigrants?
Because
shouldn't this state be a shithole?
Because if you're talking about Los Angeles or Silicon Valley,
I'm talking about the state of California. Why is the state of California the sixth strongest economy in the world when they deal with more Mexican immigrants than any other state? How is this possible?
Man, because all the industry is there. I don't know. What's your point?
Maybe the supply of labor has helped the state grow a little bit. Maybe other people are able to take up complementary positions. Maybe every single economist agrees that immigration grows an economy for everybody. That more people.
I don't know if every single economist.
Pretty much every single economist, even the main leading people who are on the immigration side, more or less agree with that, right? Borjas is the leading economist who argues for less immigration in the United States, and even he acknowledges that.
And every single pollster said Hillary Clinton was going to win.
Do you think that pollsters are of the same academic credence as an academic's analysis of an economic situation? Do you think that's a fair comparison?
We're living in a political paradigm that values appearances over. Of course, these people are going to say that because they don't want the shitstorm.
Wait, of course, people are going to say what? That that California's economy is huge, or
no? They're going to say things like, "Of course, immigration is wonderful. Diversity is our strength." This is if you don't say these buzzwords.
How do you think you grow an economy if the population begins to die off? Where do you get new workers from?
Why does an economy have to keep growing forever?
Because that's what our entire economy is based off of, is perpetual growth. I mean, would you be happy if the GDP growth was zero or started to dip into the negatives? Is that a positive thing?
People don't need gadgets all the time, bigger, less expensive gadgets. That's
easy for you to say because you're fucking rich, dog. If you're a poor dude and you can all of a sudden afford a cell phone, that's a really cool thing. Why are you advocating for a decrease in the standard of living amongst poor people? Poor people today have TVs, have internet computers, have cell phones. These are awesome things. These should be celebrated.
To be fair, I am I'm not arguing the economics of this. I'm arguing the cultural impact.
Okay, then we can stay to the culture then. Then don't talk about the economic then, because that's absolutely what nobody on the academic side agrees on. No academic is going to tell you that immigration hurts the economy. No credible one, at least. I've never seen it before. But I mean, we could stay on the culture side, in which case, why do you think white people are so important to the American identity? Why can't brown and black and all these other people be included as well? Why does it matter if the demographics shift around a little bit?
Because clearly they are you doubting the existence of tribalism?
I think
do you believe in it? Do you believe in it or not?
The fact that you are here talking to me, defending white people as a half Iranian, half Hungarian, seems to speak against the notion of tribalism being this like embedded thing that can never be changed. The fact that we are more integrated today than we ever have been, that women and men get along better, that people of different races get along better, that Jim Crow is gone, that all of these things are happening, it seems to point to the fact that we can integrate more as a society.
Are people getting along better? It seems to me they're just screaming at each other a lot recently.
I mean, depending on the news channels you watch, sure. But yeah, I would say that today people...
Twitter. Maybe Twitter is a bit... That's not a news channel, is it?
I mean, you have a little bit of
selection. Me and
you are
screaming at each other. Me and you are screaming at each other right now.
I mean, you have a little bit of selection bias, though. I mean, we're specifically looking for somebody we disagree with to talk to. But I mean, like... you can go to large cities in the United States where tons of people from different cultures and different races and different religions all get together and work along with each other.
Of course, because we're not fucking savages, man.
But you're saying that. You're going tribalism. Like,
what I am saying is that it is principally not wrong to want to keep a continuity in your nation. Every other nation, from Israel to Ethiopia, is awarded this.
I don't care about other countries. I'm American. I care about America. You keep
okay,
going
well,
back
I don't even know what you're saying. I just disagree with you. Then
okay,
really
so then you think.
points.
So then let me try to reframe your argument and tell me if you think this right. You think it's okay to keep a country from progressing as much as it can in order to maintain a racial identity? Do you think that's an okay thing?
I think. Sorry, one more time on that.
Do you think that it's okay for a country to stifle its growth a little bit in order to maintain a homogenous cultural identity?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Japan does it. They just did a...
Okay, why did you come to the United States instead of going to Japan then?
I didn't come here, dude. I was born here.
Oh, why did your parents come here instead of going to Japan? I don't know. Well, I don't care about Japan. I'm talking about the United States. Like...
Yeah, I'm just using another country as an analogy.
But that's a country with a totally different set of values or beliefs than us.
So there are different countries with different values and different beliefs? So there are those? They exist?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you mix one country with a certain value system into another one with a certain value system,
we're not mixing countries. There are people coming over and
becoming
American.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and then they become Americans. Their children are Americans.
But the stats don't back you up on that.
Wait, what stats don't? Fucking Trump's mom was fucking Irish. What do you mean the stats don't back her up on that?
Irish is European, bro. I don't know what you keep going on about that. Look, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying we can see that there exists some divides when you do this kind of immigration wrong, and you need to have the people assimilate. So it needs to be slow. It needs to be slow.
Okay, but now you're talking about assimilation. So what if whites became the minority, but most brown people assimilated to the culture? Would that be okay then?
Yeah, but if they assimilated, they would enter the gene pool eventually and would just, I mean, but we're
become white?
No, not become white, but
what do you mean then?
But that's how it worked. That's how it, if it
so,
happens.
So you're saying that brown people would come over and they would marry themselves off to white people, and then eventually they would all kind of turn white?
That's not what I'm saying. People would be free to choose. But what I'm saying is, like, if you do it slow enough, that the country doesn't have a
color shift
culture.
This is what I'm trying to ask. Let's say that you had 100 million brown people that wanted to come to the United States, and they would all assimilate to the culture immediately, but whites would then become the minority. Would this be a good thing or a bad thing?
If they assimilated immediately,
they instantly became.
Of course, yes, not a bad thing. Would be fine.
Okay, so even if whites became the minority, then it wouldn't be a bad thing if people integrated. We can agree on that.
Yeah, sure.
Then shouldn't the focus
be on
how
it works, though?
So shouldn't the focus then be on getting integration to work better rather than just restricting all immigration and hurting the potential economic growth of the country?
This is like saying why would you do? But you why do you need? See, you have some moral ulterior motive.
My
here.
moral ulterior motive is to maximize the economic growth of the country and to maximize the slice of the pie for every person in the United States. That's my ulterior motive. I want the country to be as successful as it can be and grow as fast as possible.
Okay, hold on. First of all, when I state this argument, it makes me sound like I have a problem with people who aren't white. That's not true, and they don't need to meld in. I'm just talking about the ideal way to do immigration. That's all I'm talking about. I understand we have people here who are white, who are black, and I want them all to feel respected and loved. And of course, like it's ridiculous to think that I don't want that. I'm just talking about the demographic shift. Whites are expected to just lay down and take it, but no other people
but you
do
keep
it.
making this about race. I thought you just said that what really matters was assimilation. Why do we keep going back to whites?
Because I do think race influences culture. I do. I think it does.
Then why do you have black people and Mexican people that exist here that are fully bought into American culture? Has your race influenced your ability to assimilate to American culture?
No, but I mean, why would we have things like Black Lives Matter then?
Because black people experience a disproportionate amount of problems in the United States, and this is a group that's trying to advocate on behalf of those problems to get them fixed?
I mean, I wish that your utopian worldview was the way.
Do you think that black people don't experience a disproportionate amount of problems in the United States?
I'm sure they face issues. Yeah.
That are unique probably to the black community?
I think so. Probably
okay,
they
so
do.
then that's where then you agree with the existence of Black Lives Matters. That's why they exist, is to advocate on behalf of these people.
No, that's not. That's not true though. That just because I would agree that they might have a different experience doesn't mean I advocate for Black Lives Matter.
Wait, why? So what do you disagree with?
Their methods, for one.
What is their methods? Are you talking about the most extreme rioting that you have seen, like on certain conservative media outlets, or are you talking about the general group altogether?
I didn't see them on conservative media outlets. I saw them with my eyes. What are you talking about? It still happened.
Okay,
yeah,
so should we ban? Do you support hockey players or any kind of athletic event? Because people that are into athletic events riot sometimes when their team loses as well.
I absolutely disavow all that kind of violence, but the
okay,
Black
and there are
Lives
a lot
Matter
of
movement doesn't disavow violence.
There are a lot of BLM people that disavow violence. Of course there are. If you've ever watched any of the actual demonstrations, you'll find tons of people walking around with cameras talking about not starting up shit, watch out for agitators, don't live it. There are tons of black people that don't think that they need to go and riot and be violent. That's definitely a thing.
I'm sure that that's true, but I have seen most of the mainstream stuff that I've seen hasn't really disavowed that kind of stuff. But that's just my opinion. That's one man's opinion. Take it as you will.
Okay, but you don't disagree with maybe the existence of BLM as a thing to address, things that black Americans might feel, disproportionately impacts them in the United States? Like, it doesn't seem to be like the worst idea in the world.
Well, I mean, but they don't actually want to talk about what's causing black lives in America to be affected, which is young black males.
Okay, what's the problem with young black males?
Well, they commit a disproportionate amount of crime in the country, and mostly against each other.
Why do they commit a disproportionate amount of crime?
Well, we can go into that forever, and I don't really want to go into it.
So people like you are why BLM exists. What you just said was like so mind-numbingly like arrogant. Like, do you think they just do it because they're black? Because the Negroid skull predisposes them to crime? Well, then why did you laugh there when I asked you that?
Because I don't want to incriminate myself, and because I'm not.
Why
really
are you so scared of saying something that's going to come off as racist? Don't you think that's a little bit predictive of?
You're like going on a what's one of those talk shows where they try to trap you.
Do you feel like you're being?
You should go on CNN, dude. You should work for CNN.
So. The problem is young black men in the United States are disproportionately born to single mother households, which is a leading indicator of crime. They're also disproportionately born into ghettos and low-income housing areas. They have access to worse education, okay? They're born into horrible socioeconomic conditions. All of these things are massive contributors to being a criminal as you grow up. When you control
But you are making the argument that it's like white people that put them in those situations.
Because they kind of sort of did over the past 200 years. They kind of brought them over as slaves. They kind of bred them a certain way. They kind of, redlined them and gentrified them out of certain neighborhoods and certain communities. They kind of legally discriminated on them and put them all in certain areas for a long time. They kind of disproportionately policed them and sentenced them to higher crimes in the courts and whatnot. Like, white people have contributed a lot to this.
So I suppose that's why, you know, the crime rates are pretty consistent across Africa too.
We're not talking about Africa. We're talking about the United States
We're never
of America.
talking about anything with you.
We're always talking about the United States. It seems like every time I have a point about the U.S., you want to go and move to another continent. What?
No, because oh man, you are not living in reality.
What? I'm not like. Can you name 5 countries in Africa?
Yeah, of course I can name 5 countries in Africa: South Africa, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Zaire.
All right, you got it. You did it. Okay.
All right.
I don't know why going to Africa to talk about their problems is somehow like a valid indicator of things going on in the United States.
Look. This is ultimately, I feel like you're trying to catch me in some sort of racist gotcha.
I'm not trying to catch you. Why do you feel that way?
It's because I am not saying that the country needs to be 100% white. I'm not saying that black people are not as good as white people. I'm not saying brown people aren't as good as white people.
So then why don't you want to address, when I ask you, why do you think young black men commit more crime than white people? Why are you scared to answer that?
Well, because, you know, it's a taboo subject.
How is it taboo? None of the things that I just said are taboo. What else is there to discuss?
Because look, here's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that if you're asking John, the human being, what is it that you would like? I would like every person to have the best possible life on the planet. That's genuinely what I want. Now, to what degree we can do that, that's the separate question.
Yeah, but in order to figure out how much we can do it, we have to identify the causes of the problems, because until we've remedied the causes of the problems themselves won't be fixed.
But we've been hearing this single motherhood thing for decades, and it's getting a bit tired. I think that's why you're seeing this rise in all these quote unquote Nazis that you're seeing, that everyone's seeing everywhere. Like they took acid and they're seeing bugs crawling out of the woodwork or something.
Wait, so what do you think is the reason why young black men disproportionately commit crime in the United States?
Well, at this point, it doesn't really matter. All that.
But then how do we fix it? Do we just kill them all or deport them all?
No, of course. Kill them all. You see, why? Perhaps you're the one with the depraved mind. Because why are you going to kill them all? Why do you go there? Because on some level, is that what you want? I mean, why the fuck you say kill them all?
You're not leaving me any options, John. You're saying...
They commit more crime. Kill them all.
You're literally saying they commit more crime. I don't know why they do it. Fuck it. We can't do anything to fix it. That's what you're saying. So what's the solution then? You have no solutions.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when white people are aggressed against in their own nations by people who are not white, and they're told constantly, check your privilege, you colonized us, you owe us this land, blah, 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 but you heard it all.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about identifying root causes of problems in the black community and trying to fix and remedy those problems.
You're just going off on tangents, dude. Look, there's one thing I came here to talk to you about. Why is it bad for white people to resist their own demographic displacement? That is the only thing I'm here to discuss.
And your only answer was tribalism.
I made my point. What?
And your only answer was tribalism.
No, I explained other things as well. You know, when people, let's say the French see an influx of Islamic migrants who come in and say, you don't give us good enough handouts, you're being racist to us, and then they're rioting. What are the French supposed to think exactly? They're supposed to think more.
I'm not French. I'm American. We were talking about America. Why have we gone across the seas again?
All intertwined. It's the same situation, but they speak a different language. I don't know why this is so hard for you.
Because it's not the same situation. Those countries are in dramatically different situations. You can't compare them.
That's like you're saying a man ate a sandwich in France and a man ate a sandwich in America, but these are not the same situations.
We're not talking about a basic thing like eating and consuming food. We're talking about the complex interaction and crossroads between culture and demographics and economy and geography. These are very complicated, high-level social issues that manifest themselves in far different ways across different countries. We're not just talking about eating food.
You speak pretty, my friend, but you haven't convinced me. I don't know if you may have convinced your viewers. I think they're probably on your side, but that's what happens when you go off home turf. look, you can speak flowery language about all this stuff, but you bring up, you know, you bring up the Irish and the Italians when it's convenient, but
What do you mean when it's convenient? I brought up the Irish Italians to disprove your points about tribalism. That at one point in time, they weren't seen as being included as Americans or white people, and now they are. So it seems like we got over
this is
that.
not true that they weren't considered white people. They may
It is
have
absolutely true. Please, okay, just make me promise one thing. If I haven't changed your mind on anything else, please go read a little bit about early struggles of immigrants and fucking Ellis Island and all that shit, because this was a very real thing in the United States. You have before you talk, because people will catch you on this in the future if they try to do gotcha moments. You absolutely need to read a little bit about this. Okay, Irish people and plenty of other immigrants around the late 1800s, early 1900s in the United States experienced a ton of discrimination, racial discrimination. All right, you have to just look into this. Okay, even if you don't agree with me now.
Look, I know that there was some discrimination there, and by the way, yeah, it's wrong. Discrimination is wrong. We have gotten rid of discrimination in our Western countries. That's fine.
But no, we haven't. What do you mean?
If you don't think we've gotten rid of discrimination, you're living in a fantasy land. And
how do you explain things like the voter ID laws in North Carolina, or how do you?
What voter ID laws in North Carolina? Get out of here with that.
What? Right, get out of here with what?
People like me are supposed to listen to people like you chatter on about this oppression in America. It doesn't exist, dude. It doesn't exist. There's
what
no
are you
oppression.
talking about? You don't think that there's any oppression in any part of the United States against any group of people ever?
What do you want to do? Police people's thoughts? By law?
No, how about their actions?
We do that. It's called having a police force, something that Somalia doesn't really have much of. So, what's your point?
I'm not sure. All right, well, listen, dude.
That's what I think you are correct on that. I think you aren't sure.
No, I mean, I know exactly what I'm talking about, but I feel like I mean, if you don't think that anybody experiences any disproportionate oppression or any kind of issues in any parts of the United States.
Sure, they do. But we can't take on all the world's problems at once.
Well, I'm the one that just wants to talk about the United States.
I maintain that the United States and Europe are interconnected, at least spiritually. So I don't know why that's controversial to say. I really don't understand it.
I would highly encourage you to talk to Europeans then, I guess, or talk to your parents, because they will tell you completely different things. Countries in Europe do not all what?
I guess you know what my parents think then.
Your parents are from the Middle East, correct? Or what did you say? One was from Iran? Ask him how similar Iran is to Iraq, or how similar Iran is to Israel, or how similar Iran is to even Saudi Arabia or the Gulf states. He's not going to tell you that, oh, it's all in the Middle East, right? Would your dad say that?
Of course not. And I've been to Iran, so I don't know if you've ever been outside your house, but...
Okay, so if you took a guy from Iran, you've been there, right? If you take an Iranian, and you put him aside a Saudi Arabian, do you think that these people would identify as both being, yeah, we're both Middle Eastern?
No. Iranians and Saudi Arabians are very different, but what's your point? So then that's a good argument for Saudi Arabians not to occupy Iran, isn't it?
No, I'm just saying that these people don't all identify as being the same, even though they're from a similar region, much the same way that Europeans don't identify as being European.
Yes, but would you argue that a Turk and an Iranian are going to be able to assimilate to one's culture easier than a Hungarian and a Romanian? Or those two would be able to assimilate easier than the other way around, I mean.
I mean, it really depends on the reasons for moving. It depends on the situation. Like, I don't know. I'm not talking about their ability to integrate. I'm just talking about how people identify themselves. You're telling me that I don't understand, I guess, anything about the world, and you're very quick to lump, like, all Europeans in together with one another, when I don't think there are any Europeans that would do that.
You're differentiating between people when it's convenient, like when it's in Iran or Saudi Arabia, but you are... When it comes to white countries, there's no difference. We have no culture. It's just all up for grabs. So it's one or the other. And people like you you just bounce around when it's convenient for you. That's why your arguments aren't rooted in any sort of consistency or fact.
All right. I understand. Do you have any? I'll give you the closing words if you want. If you want to, we're already way past. I think you said.
No, nothing. I genuinely appreciate you debating me. If I'm I'd love to be proven wrong. No, thanks for at least, having the balls to talk about what you believe in.
Sure, I appreciate it. Yeah, same to you. It's always nice to have a conversation with someone I disagree with. So good luck with your endeavors and everything.
You too, man. Hey, thank you for having me on. And rip my career. All right, see you guys.
See you later.
All right, see you.
Oh, dudes. fucking end my life. Oh no, my... I didn't think that would be like that. I'm sorry.
First time actually listening to you debate. Was shocked to see how difficult it was. You try your hardest to maintain a worldview and the other person just goes nuts in the wind. Made me appreciate you more. Great job, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh no, he was retarded da fellas.
Ah, dude, I don't know, fam. I need a minute to I need a minute to decompress. Oh my god, I can't do it.
I'm going to feel bad for you when the YouTube comments on this video all consist of wow SJWS Tiny got fucking destroyed.
They
Bonus
will
meme
too, dude.
IE.
They will, dude.
Here's a subscription to Cool Down Friend. Holy shit, JONTRON absolutely destroyed Destiny in that debate. Blow the fuck out, USJW cuck.
Rip.
Maybe get out of your house for once instead of being shit in
Oh,
league
I
with
can't
Draven
believe-
Kid.
Oh.
Also gashigasm.
If there's one thing that I've learned as like an ignorant American that wanders around the world for my time that I've spent in Europe, don't call Europeans like Europeans. I don't think they like that generally. Like, I don't think, it doesn't seem that like Polish people or Italians or French or Germans like will call them like, yes, I'm a European. Like, I'm a European. It doesn't seem to be. I could be wrong on that, but I've never met somebody from any of these countries that does
Discrimination
that.
doesn't exist in the United States anymore. That's why I advocate for discrimination against dark-skinned immigrants to preserve the white majority in the
Oh,
United
man.
States.
I think you should establish the definition of white people from the beginning. The Irish not being white people kind of got autistic, but it's not. That's the point of my argument. What is white people has expanded. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I can't say these fucking words because I'm fucking streaming
The
on
problem
Twitch,
is
and I get in trouble
completely
for saying this,
integration
but, like,
and assimilation. The levels are too high. American culture is getting DDoSD. It's not skilled immigration. It's unskilled immigration that doesn't integrate that's causing racial and sexual tension.
Thanks, buddy. Like, Irish people literally were considered, they were like, when they would like, they had like pictures of them like next to like
Here's
black
$10
skulls
for
and
having the
Irish
patience
skulls,
to listen
and then
to
like
that much
other like more
bullshit.
pure European skulls, and they literally had these things set up where like Irish people were literally, I think they called them white Negroes. Oh, the Irish were also nicknamed Negroes turned inside out, white, while African Americans would be described as smoked Irish, right? These were very real things. These were
That's pretty low debating retards that voted for me. Sad.
Like, these things happened, right? So when somebody literally tells me, what do you mean Irish people weren't considered white people? What are you even talking about? On one hand, it's incredibly troubling that you don't know that history, but on another hand, that's awesome that you consider all the white people to be the same. That's a good thing in America, right? That we... That we've gotten to the point to where everybody's just fucking white. That's a positive thing. I consider that to be a positive thing, right? Much the same way that, like, I think we can move in that direction with people that look different than you as well, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's impossible to say that at some point Mexicans or Hispanics or black people can all be seen as American, you know? Kind of like how Slavic people are still considered different people to white. Yeah, sure. In Europe, you guys have like way different. You guys are like really quick. Like if you're like Russian or German or Polish, you guys all have like your white divisions like super laid out. But in the United States, we're all just white people.
P.S. I liked you on Game Grumps Dolphilas.
You should have pursued his Africa comment about, well, look at Africa, then proved him wrong that Africa doesn't have problems with single mothers, and then showed him why Africa isn't parallel to the... I didn't even want to go into... Because I don't have...
To answer John's question, white pride, why is it bad to feel pride for O&E's question? Why should we be the minority?
Why is it bad to feel pride for one's question? Why should... Wait, what? There's nothing wrong with wanting to have... Like, you shouldn't hate your people, but, like, why does it matter if there are more other people around you? Why do these things matter? I don't know. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal. That's why English is so good at dividing people, or English is so good at picking out accents because we can't tell on skin color.
Please shower me, Destiny, with your flowery language. Wait, I changed my mind. I want to preserve my tribalism.
Do you think JONTRON left tonight at least questioning why he had no answers and was constantly getting trapped? He kept saying that I was the one changing the story.
Please never debate him again. The donation money afterwards can't be worth the autism.
He kept saying that I was the one jumping topics. Oh, God, why do you keep saying that? You keep jumping topics every time I nail you down to say, oh, God.
Remember everyone, discrimination doesn't exist in America anymore. Try hard.
Destiny, why do you think black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime? As a black person, I feel like you just told me that I don't have control over my actions because of my upbringing. Because guess what? For the most part, you don't. You are a slave of your fucking environment. It's true for white people, it's true for Hispanic people, and it's true for fucking black people. Everybody is the same. More or less, a huge amount of what we do in our life is more or less determined by what goes on in our environment. It's just a fucking fact, dog. You think that somebody born with the last name Rockefeller has the same chances of robbing a liquor store as some guy born on fucking, I don't know, in like a Detroit or Chicago or
You don't get paid enough to deal with retards. Here you go, buddy. Less than 3.
Thanks, buddy. Or a fucking DC suburb? Like, do you want to come here and pretend that everybody is like these perfect agents of free choice that have absolutely are free of all influence around them? Like, I'm sorry, dude, like, grow the fuck up. That's not how life works. You know that's not how life works.
Congrats, man. You will now only be known as the guy who outed JONTRON as a racist lol.
Wow, Dr. Weird, thanks for the tier 2 suburb, buddy.
Here's $5 for robot lady to say Hail Hitler.
Destiny, but that's just life. Sometimes you get a bad roll of the dice. You don't fix the problem by saying, oh, well, he was raised poorly, so it's okay. No, but you try to fix the family unit. Or you fix the education. Or you fix...
But I mean, he has no fucking clue on what he's talking about. He needs to go outside a little more. Way too much Alex Jones.
Okay,
Then
so,
again, not even Alex is that fucking racist.
Okay, so you have a problem in certain communities with a lot of people being born out of wedlock, a lot of people being born to single mothers. What about increased or free access to contraception or child planning, right? Like abortion or whatever, right? These are things, a service like Planned Parenthood can be made available to prevent people from ever getting pregnant. Maybe increased access to education, you know, about contraceptives. These are ways that you can combat these problems so that instead of being born into single family broken households, you don't get people that are born into these scenarios because the mothers are properly educated enough to use contraceptives to not get knocked up all the fucking time. Like, there are ways to combat these problems, but you have to acknowledge that they exist, right? You have to acknowledge that the problem exists before you can try to fix it. So to just go, to just say that like, oh, well, you know, I don't know why, you know, some people, I don't know, commit crime, who knows, who cares? Like, no, figure out why they do it and then work to fix the problem.
Please debate Stefan Molyneux. I think it would be interesting.
He ducked out, dude. I sent him a tweet, and I had people retweet it, and he didn't give me any response. I don't think that guy would ever come on. It would devolve into a screaming fest very quickly, though. That guy is the worst type of sophist. He engages in sophistry of an unprecedented level. I've never seen somebody as self-deluded as that dude. I got linked to this
stream, and you just earned yourself a new fan. John embarrassed himself.
We're gonna do, one day we'll do a thing where we pull on like random fucking, we do random fucking people from Pol. He's literally advocating the destruction of white people.
Destiny's only goal is economic growth. That's why he is a communist.
Creating false equivalencies, false economics. People working for low wages gave us cheap things for the working class. Yes, but if the working class have no jobs, what will we buy them with? I'm pretty sure you could still find jobs if you don't have things like manufacturing in the United States. It hasn't existed here for decades, and we do get cheaper products as a result of it. I wish I could have 10 minutes with this cuck. Oh shit, dude. I always like the totally random. Do you really think that cheap labor gives us cheap products? Are you a retard? Like, oh, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I never really thought about it that way before. Why do you think companies move to these places and make these cheap as fuck products? I don't know. If only we had Americans making iPhones, I'm sure they would cost the exact same, dog. If we could give 20 people their fucking factory job, maybe it'd be worth it for all of us to pay 10 times more for the cost of goods. I don't know, dude. What is a comparative advantage? I've never heard of it before. Who knows, man?
Invite JONTRON to debate to garner donations and subs. Kappa.
Kappa. Gotta stay relevant somehow. He was wrong about poor black community committing more crime. Poor urban blacks had rates of violent crime similar to urban whites. Poor urban whites. Yeah, I know this. I didn't have this. I've never heard somebody try to make that claim. Dude, oh my God. I never know, like, if I'm arguing with, like, Lauren Southern or, like, some of these people, some of these crazy, like, alt-right fanatics, I never know, like, what data I need, like, handy. Like, if some dude is gonna say, like, I feel like I could argue with a person, like, he'd be like, didn't you know that black people don't even have a frontal lobe?
And
I'd be like,
stuff was
no, I don't think that's true. He's like, it is true, dude. Look it up. And I'm like, and I gave him like a YouTube, or I gave him a wiki link. It's like, you're gonna need to give me more than a Wikipedia link, a short article in Wikipedia to prove to me that black people have a frontal lobe to their brain, dude. Like, oh fuck, I don't have this data offhand. Like, oh shit, dude, I didn't know we were going here. Like, what the fuck? Like, goddamn.
I hate you for making me respect JONTRON less. I still love his content though. Bonus meme, never flash forward.
Like, how are you gonna argue that rich black people commit more crime than poor white people? Oh my God. I can't, can you possibly be prepared for this kind of discussion? Like, if somebody's gonna go there, like, how do you even have these facts on hand?
I am incredibly disappointing. JONTRON did not bring up George Soros and Bohemian Grove.
Oh God. Destiny, his source. Yeah, I already read this. I read this to him, and I said that it was probably more about the criminal justice system than people committing crime.
Those were some good memes. Can you please end the stream now so we can get these VODs and clips to start circulating? the internet so he can get a huge backlash. Maybe he will then realize he is the one avoiding questions and skipping topics. Great debate from a non-regular viewer.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Non-white boogeyman here. I will taint your white bloodline with brown. Feels good, man. You can say that Planned Parenthood can be added to these areas, but the majority won't use it because it conflicts with their deeply rooted religious views. Don't know when the last time you were in the South, but religion runs everything down there.
I mean, yeah, that's a problem, but we're becoming more secular in the United States, so
I
hopefully
love
it's
how
changing.
you're on your high horse with when it comes to racism. But you just made 5,000 people watch you rape a guy.
Oh shit, hold on, wait a second, wait a second.
A woman on Twitter told JONTRON to check his privilege 3 years ago, and it triggered him so hard that he went full Nazi.
What? How do I mute my donations for a second? I'm not gonna be able to do it. Okay, I'm gonna disable my text to speech for a second, and then I'll go back and read them. I'm sorry, okay? Hold on, I just want to get this out of the way right now, okay? Because if you're here watching my stream because you think I'm like a big SJW or I'm like big on like SJW topics, I'm a very left-leaning person, especially compared to most people in the gaming community, but I'm not an SJW and I don't do that SJW shit, okay? I think that what JONTRON said tonight was really fucking retarded, and I think that he has a lot of really fucking stupid beliefs, but I do not advocate for witch hunting people out of their careers and shit. I see some people like joking about this in chat, like, oh, I'm gonna start a huge shitstorm. I don't think it's a positive thing when you silence a person's opinion by threatening their livelihood because they say some shit that you don't agree with. Again, I think that a lot of what JONTRON said was really fucking stupid, but I'm not big on that. We need to fucking find somebody that we disagree with and take every single, you know, revenue stream from them and make sure that they die and like the rest of their life is fucking horrible and shit like that. So I don't know if maybe it doesn't matter that I say that or whatnot, but like if you're that kind of person that thinks that you're gonna go like get on your fucking SJW pony and like hardcore go and witch hunt the fuck out of somebody because you disagree with them, I think that's some really fucking autistic shit. Don't do that shit. Sorry. Okay. I see people joking about it in chat. I don't. Hyper-partisan mentality is shit. Yeah, I agree. Which donations did I skip or weren't read? A woman on Twitter told JONTRON to check his privilege. Oh, where do you stand as far as Native American rights? Dude, that's a really tough thing. I think we should just get rid of him because that has no good answer, dude. And it'd be easier for all of us. No, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I really don't know. Native American rights is like a really weird shit. I think like as the United States, we kind of just hope to give them some shit so they don't say anything because Native Americans kind of have a right to be like fucking mad at everybody who's now here. I don't know how you would actually...
I'm pretty sure Kellyanne Conway can see the future. I think we just saw Destiny commit the Bowling Green massacre in real time.
Nice. Hey, thanks for having me once again to debate. You totally ruined my... Oh, fat ass. Okay, nice fucking meme, dude. That was a pretty mean donation. People who feel pride based off race, religion, creed, ethnicity have nothing else to feel proud of. Get a hobby or train a skill or get a job or something instead of feeling proud for something you can't even change.
John
yeah,
was
kind of
parroting poll talking points. Are you worried about poll tier beliefs spreading?
The I think that the election of Trump in the United States, I don't think that there is an ideology like spreading in the US. I think that there is one that was already here.
Thought you'd enjoy this.
And I think that the Trump election kind of showed us that, you know? Do you think that unregulated immigration from Muslim countries is not bad for a country? I live in Mole, and I've seen the effects of opening the floodgates to a culture that doesn't respect your own. No, I think that's probably a negative thing, and I think you should do your best to encourage integration and to curb that kind of shit. But I mean, my answer isn't literally like gas all Muslims and ban travel from all Muslim countries. Like, I don't know. I think that there are ways to like responsibly manage your immigration policy. But I don't know, dude. That's just me, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Do you think that you'd debate Shu? I don't remember. She said some really retarded shit in the past, but she didn't seem interested in having like a voice conversation, so I don't think anything would ever happen there.
It's not about white majority, it's about the global dollar elite trying to replace EU country's resident population with an easier to control population due to immigrants not integrating into Western values like you would ideally hope they would. ANELE.
Well, thanks, Avila. PewDiePie would probably agree with Destiny on all of this.
I would
don't know
love
if
to
that's
hear
true.
you debate versus Stefan Molyneux. I don't care how unproductive and autistic it may be.
I think that
Hearing
PewDiePie
you
might have been
debate
pushed
someone as
probably
high-strung
pretty
as
far
you
to
would
the
be a
right
fucking
by the people
spectacle.
witch hunting him in the
You
media.
could
That
make
wouldn't
him
surprise me.
actually
The
snap
whole
into a
Nazi allegations
psychotic
and
rage.
everything.
Destiny, if these donations keep coming, you'll be global elite in no time, Kappa.
We're getting
Bonus meme, yee.
Fuck, what was I going to talk? Oh, the parroting talking points is something that bothers me, and I notice it. Like, obviously, you can tell when I talk to people that I'm very quick to throw out an answer, right? Like, what is the point of Black Lives Matter? It's like, well, I know the point of Black Lives Matter. Like, do you? Or, like, a lot of people are very quick to throw out, like, a talking point, but sometimes they don't have the, sometimes they don't have anything to back it up. That kind of stuff kind of worries me.
It isn't racism. That is viewing other races as inferior.
Hold on.
This is respecting everyone, but realizing that we all have different cultures. There is no word for good racist, though. You can't import all Mexicans, but you wish for them to do best in Mexico.
Hold on, I'll respond to that in a second. So, fuck, what did I just say? Oh, I remember what I just said, hold on.
There's more than one person in that poll thread who wants to debate you right now. One of them is messaging you on Twitter. You should totally do it.
Do you remember the last one?
Debated.
The, Wait, what was I gonna say? Oh god, I keep remembering it, but then I keep forgetting it. Talking points. Oh, yeah. I noticed that some people get, like, really, like, a really big, like, certain talking point, but then they don't really have anything to back it up. What was that talking point? Oh, fuck, I don't remember what it was. There was one. He brought up a few where he, like, said something, and you could tell that, like, okay, I've heard this regurgitated before, but you don't actually, like, understand it or have anything to back it up. Yeah. Fuck. I had a specific thing, but I don't remember what it was. One was the Black Lives Matter. I'm not gonna remember it, dude. I'm not gonna remember it. Rip me. Well, Clinton Loomis, welcome to the Tier 4 Cyber Clipper. That's what happens when you're when your political views come from retarded shit-posted memes. Oh, yeah. One of my big problems with... So this is a big problem that I have with, like, gamers that get into politics. And, I mean, I fully understand that I am a gamer getting into politics, so, like, that's a totally... I mean, it's a valid criticism against me if you think I do it, but one of the problems is you get a lot of people involved in political things whose entire political ideology is shaped and viewed through a very narrow paradigm. So I see this happen on the right. It also happens on the left, right? So on the right, you see people like Thorin or Richard Lewis or JONTRON who have these political views, and you can kind of tell when you listen to them that, like, all of their opinions seem like they come from, like, a Gamergate forum. Not saying whether I'm pro or against Gamergate, but it sounds like these are people that get their news, like their political news, from, like, Kotaku in Action, right? Like, this is where they're learning about, like, political appointments, you know, by Donald Trump, like, or what's going on with Jeff Sessions or Flynn. Like, they're getting this information from, like, literally, like, gaming-related kind of stuff, and that's the paradigm that I got. So obviously these people all become, like, very right-leaning, and, they have really bad views of the left in the media and all of this stuff, and it's like, okay, well, that's kind of, but that's, like, a very narrow point of the media, and it's a very narrow way to view things. Like, there's a lot more going on than just than just what you hear about like on gaming forums, you know? Much the same way that on the left, you get people who will view everything through like a feminist lens. For instance, Anita Sarkeesian, right? When there is a terrorist attack or a mass shooting for Anita Sarkeesian, she'll say like, oh, well, this is the patriarchy, obviously. This is why, you know, he did it. It's because men are told to be violent, and now he went and he shot up a school, and this is the fault of the patriarchy and men everywhere. But it's like, okay, well, that's one way to view it. That's a very narrow lens to view a problem through.
Fam, you should have pinned him down on his points harder when he compared the similarities between African American statistics and African statistics. The only link between this comparison is they're both black. An unavoidably racist argument.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. One of the things that bothered me about what JONTRON was saying, he brought up that virtue signaling thing too, like virtue signaling. That's always like a quick like buzzword that you throw, like, you virtue signal. It's like, okay, well, what the fuck does that mean, right? Virtue signaling, identity politics is another big one. Well, the left is trying to play this identity politics. What identity politics? Dog. Fucking, do you think that when black people were slaves and white people owned black slaves, there wasn't like a little bit of identity politics going on here? Like, what does that even mean? Like, the left just started identity politics. Identity politics have been part of probably the entire worldwide discussion on politics since different people that looked different got together. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of, that when people bring up that identity politics, man, that's kind of a big thing. When JONTRON kept saying, like, I'm worried that you're going to make me say something racist, does that really happen? Does this really happen if you feel like you're not racist? Like, I don't understand. Do you really feel like you're going to accidentally be racist or something?
Thoughts but don't act on them. Also, do you think it's a legitimate sexual orientation, or should they all be hung from trees and lit on fire? Also, would you have sex with the 13 years old if she looked 21?
What the fuck? Pedophilia is a really complicated thing, dog. I don't have it. This is like a whole other discussion. What the fuck? Can you explain virtue signaling? Yeah, I can give you an explanation of virtue signaling. Virtue signaling is when a Republican congressman talks about the evils of abortion, and then as soon as he knocks up his mistress that he doesn't want his wife to find out about, he goes and she gets an abortion. That's virtue signaling. Virtue signaling is when you talk about having good virtues on Twitter or whatever just to show everybody how good you are, but you may or may not actually believe them, and you may or may not actually give a fuck about them. But you're mainly doing it for the show, right? In the Bible, when the Pharisees and the rich men went up and they donated in the synagogues, and they made a big flashy showing of the money that they donated, Jesus would have called those guys virtue signalers. Like, why are you virtue signaling? Like, wow, good job, you donated so much, you're so good. Like, stop virtue signaling. That's like virtue signaling. Yeah, identity politics is dude, you talk too fast. I've been talking for like 6 years, dude. This has been my job for a long time. Identity politics is like a really quick way to try to dismiss all of your arguments. Like, you are identity politics.
Remember that when you feel scared or frigged, never forget tea times when you feel happy. When day is dark, always remember happy day. Ooh-oh.
Wow. I feel like that's just like a quick way that people try to dismiss everything you're saying. Like, they pull out like the identity politics card. It's like, oh no, not that one. I can't do anything. I guess it's similar to how the left calls people racist, right? Like, I don't know. I think there is a huge problem with black people over committing crime in the United States. It's not just the judicial system. That's true. It's not. Black people do commit way more crime in the United States than white people. It's like, oh, are you a fucking racist? It's like, oh, well, shit, you got me, I guess. I don't know. Destiny, you do realize any illegal immigrant is by definition a criminal. They aren't all rapists and murderers, but they are all most certainly criminals who broke U.S. law. That's not what people are talking about. You're trying to reframe the argument there. Like, all illegal immigrants are criminals, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, damn, dude. I mean, I don't think they all like rape and murder. Well, if you look at the technical definition of criminal, they have broken a crime. I'm like, okay, well, I guess, sure. I mean, most white people are probably criminals too because we've all sped before. I mean, I understand, like, when you come here illegally, that's obviously breaking the law, but usually when people are talking about criminals, they're usually talking about committing crimes like
it's
rape,
7
murder,
a.m.
theft,
in the UK.
arson.
I was laughing so hard I woke up my housemates. I have yet to be decapitated by an Arab. Failing to integrate will let you know when it happens.
Who is the guy?
Much love less than 3.
Who was the guy that I was arguing with who was saying the things like Mexico is just a nationality and Muslims
secure
are not?
The existence of our people and a future for white children.
Speeding equals crossing border illegally and not paying taxes. Nice false equivalency, bro. Well, technically, legal immigrants do pay taxes. Secondly, you probably don't know very much about taxes, so I don't know why you're talking about it in my chat.
Direction of the stream. All of this league play and debates, where is the actual content? Let's get back to what made this stream great in the first place. Bullying Mr. Mudon.
Oh, I thought you were going to say playing League of Legends. Damn, Daniel. People don't really consider the many thresholds for criminals. They kind of blend them all together, like petty theft being equivalent to rape. Is that actually true? Do people really do that? I feel like people see a difference.
Nice meme.
Illegals are criminals by definition, and that's all anyone sensible on the subject cares about. That's not true. Why would you say something so stupid? If 95% of illegal immigrants coming over here were murderers, that would be a massive problem, right? That would be something that would, like, need pressing, like, federal agents deployed to the border, like with the Coast Guard or National Guard or whatever, to stop. Like, that would be a huge thing if 95% were murderers, right? And much the same way, if, like, less than 0.000001% of illegal immigrants were criminals, like, well, that would also be massively influential in foreign policy. Like, maybe we need to just legalize these people immediately to bring them in under the income tax base, like, if they're not that much of a problem. Like, what do you mean? The amount of crime that they commit isn't relevant. It's a very relevant thing, and it's very important to discuss and analyze. Illegals don't pay taxes. I know an illegal immigrant, and he doesn't have to pay sales tax when we go to Popeyes. If you're an illegal immigrant, if you pay gas for your car, you're paying a gas tax. If you purchase any products, you're paying a sales tax. I mean... Speeding is a traffic infraction, not a crime? Is an infraction not a crime? This seems like a highly semantic argument. Oh God, when John Trump... When John Trump brought up the gene pool, oh, I thought he was going to say it. I thought I had to cut the stream. I was like over the stop broadcasting button. I thought he was going to. Oh, shit. Undocumented immigrants pay billions into Social Security every year that they don't get access to. I would have to read more about that. I don't believe that just hearing it. I would have to see more about it. Because if you're paid in cash under the table, FICA taxes are generally withheld from your pay. And not even FICA taxes are only withheld too if you get paid via a W-2, right? You have to fill out a what is it, a form W-9 or W-4 for withholdings?
Should we abuse be given the same rights as normal people and treated equally, or should we gouge out their insides with their katana collections and hang them from the rafters with their intestines? Would really love to hear your thoughts on this topic, smiley face.
What? You would, if you're getting paid under the table as an illegal immigrant, or you're being paid cash or by 1099, then you're not paying any FICA tax.
The cultural Marxist Jewish agenda is destroying our nation. White nations must be diverse. Black nations must be black. Why the double standard?
When you brought up that you never left your house, why didn't you tell him about Korea, Germany, Poland, etc.? Because what am I going to say? Dick wave about the countries I've been to? Hasn't he... I would imagine he's traveled more than me. This dude's like a millionaire, right? I mean, and I don't want to get into like anecdotal like circle jerking. I don't want to argue. Like I said, this is why I didn't want to go into like Europe and Africa with him, because I could tell that he had no idea, and I know enough about these places to know that I can't go into detail about them. But like when a guy is seriously sitting here saying that like all Europeans view themselves as being Europeans, like how am I gonna have a conversation about, you know, like I said, like I know enough about the problems that Germany is dealing with to know that they're very different than the problems that Sweden deals with. To know that they're very different than the problems that the United Kingdom is dealing with. Like these are not the same places. These are not the same places at all. Like they're almost incomparable.
My face when I virtue signal about you virtue signaling.
They probably wouldn't be paying much income tax anyway, given their income bracket. Yeah, that's very true. That's why I told that one guy in chat, he probably doesn't know much about taxes. If you make less than 10 to 15,000 in the United States, oftentimes you're paying a negative rate or no income tax at all. Although I think you're still always paying into the FICA tax. I don't think you ever get FICA back. Although you could get more back in the form of a refundable tax credit via the earned income credit or a child care credit or whatever that might compensate you for what you've paid into Social Security and Medicaid. But
Real talk though. As a black man, I'ma be sad if whites go extinct, cause PAWGs are God's gift to mankind. You boy.
I think you should rely less on saying, but we're not talking about X, and just go with saying this is a false equivalency because Y. The problem is when you're having an argument, a debate, a discussion about topics, you can't get hung up on arguing every single side point, you know? Like if he tries to say like, well, what about Africa? I was like, and I think it's easy to say we're not Africa, or this is the United States, rather than this is a false equivalence because why? Because then we're going to get into a massive argument on whether or not you can compare these places. And like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go down that road. Why do you only advocate for immigration in a majority white countries? Do you think more people should immigrate to Japan or Saudi Arabia or the Senate? Okay, so this is a big talking point that I see you guys from poll use a lot, okay? And I know I'm never going to convince any of you otherwise, but for the people on the wall. Okay, so this is a big poll talking point. When you say something like, I believe that women should get this right, or I believe that we should let Muslims immigrate into a country, right? They're very quick to go, well, why don't you go to Saudi Arabia and see if a Saudi lets you, as a white American, do blah, 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 right? Okay, this is a bad argument because I don't give a fuck what Saudi Arabia does in their country, okay? I don't want to be like Saudi Arabia. I don't think you want to be like Saudi Arabia. You need a better argument, dude. When your go-to argument for some kind of policy of the United States is, look at what one of the worst countries in the world for human rights does, why would we allow them, blah, blah, like, that's not your comparison, dude. That's not who you're trying to be slightly better than, okay? I don't want a country that's slightly better than Saudi Arabia. I want a country that is much better than Saudi Arabia. I want to do things like for the country of the United States of America on the, and my level of expectations is what I expect it to be for the United States of America. I don't give a fuck who Saudi Arabia lets into their country. I don't give a fuck if Iran is fucking stoning gays now. I don't give a fuck if, I don't care about that shit, all right? They can be fucked up, okay? They're being fucked up doesn't mean that I have to be fucked up too. In terms of talking about like white majority or black majority countries, I don't advocate for anything there because I don't know what the fuck. I don't know any of those countries. I'm not from any of those countries. I'm not going to say that Japan needs to let a bunch of people immigrate. I'm not a Japanese. I don't know fuck all about Japan. If I was Japanese, I would probably be encouraging it, but I'm not Japanese, so I don't give a fuck about, I don't give a fuck about Japan. I'm not from Japan. Like, the fuck you want me to say? Destiny, you're right. You don't want to be like Saudi Arabia. Then why do those type of people immigrate here? There are now already Sharia courts in the UK. I feel like that's not true, but I feel like all of your talking points are coming from like the National Policy Review or some crazy shit. But I guess to shortly answer it, like people can come to the United States and adopt the United States way of life. For some reason, this seems to be really hard for you guys to imagine, but we have a society of 330 million people that more or less share a very similar culture that ties us all together as being American. That being said, some culture in the United States is very different than in other parts of the United States. I don't know if everybody realizes that. I kind of not sure in talking to JONTRON if you realize that if you take somebody from New York City and you put them in the same room as somebody from rural Iowa or Kansas or Oklahoma or, you know, like these people are going to be very, very
Destiny
different.
confirms he is okay with gays being stoned to death. Condemn it and say you do care or face this punishment.
Destiny, how easily do you think it would be for you to, hold on, I'm trying to read this Twitch comment, to integrate into Middle Eastern culture, society, countries with your current beliefs, and why do you think that they can and are so easily if we give them a chance? Should be clear, it's just not as compatible as, say, Western integration with what we see as successful.
Most of my friends are right-wing, so I enjoy seeing you argue against it. It's a nice change of pace. Thanks for the enjoyable stream and have a good evening.
Thanks, buddy. I don't think I could integrate well into a Middle Eastern country because I hate fucking Muslim belief shit, dude. I don't like the hijab or the fucking beekeeper suits that they make women wear, and I don't like the viewing women as lesser than men. I think those are massive problems with Islam. But I think that as people are in developing nations in the West and they start to grow, I think that people in general become more secular, not Christian, okay? Because Christians have their own boatload of fucking horrible problems in the United States. They're the biggest problem right now in the United States is Christian people have some of the worst, most fucked up beliefs in the U.S. right now that are holding us back on a number of different topics, okay? But if you compare like the beliefs of the average Muslim to the average Muslim in the United States to like the average Muslim in Saudi Arabia, they're going to be very, very, very different, right? They're going to be much more progressive in the West compared to the US,
it made
the Middle
me feel
East,
bad. I'm sorry.
Even if you take a place like Saudi Arabia, right? The average progressive belief of a person in Saudi Arabia is going to be much different than the average progressive belief of somebody in Iran, right? Destiny, you give a shit about women, so don't say you like Middle Eastern culture because they hate women. I never said I like Middle Eastern culture, but I don't like Christian culture either because they also don't give a shit about women.
TFW, even JONTRON subreddit thinks he is retarded.
I think that, like I said, I think that in general, the Western world is becoming more and more secular. As we all step away from religion, society kind of improves, like, period. That seems to be happening in the West, at least across most of Europe and in North America. I said United States and Canada. I don't know what the fuck goes on in Mexico, but... I hate it when Destiny talks bad about Christians when they're only talking about American Christians. Oh, yeah, maybe European. Well, but you guys in Europe are a lot more secular than in the United States, right? With a few exceptions. I think Norway is a predominantly Christian country still. Evangelical Lutheran Christianity is 73% belonging. I think there are a couple of exceptions, but I think for the most part, aren't you guys a bit more secular across most of Western Europe? I don't know what the satellites are like.
Christianity is much better than Islam. A statistic done shows that 50% of
I think
Towelheads
Poland has a lot of Catholics.
advocate Sharia law.
87%
Sharia law is very dangerous to any nation.
United Kingdom religion. Let me check. I might be wrong on this. According to 2011, because you're followed by Islam. View page. You guys have 60% who identify as Christians in the UK. What is it in the United States? We're very apathetic towards religion, Destiny in Europe. I think that's true for a lot of Europe. Yeah, like it's also kind of like different too. So 70% of Christians or people in the US identify as Christians. It's also different in the US because we're very big on religion too. So like when someone identifies as Christian in the US, it's a little different than in Europe too. Like we literally have God like written on all of our fucking money, and it's part of like our Pledge of Allegiance that we make all of our children say every single day when they go to school, like one nation under God, indivisible. With like we're very, very, very big on our religion still in the United States. Can you tell me how Christians are bad for America or linking bad? Christians in the United States tend to stand against a lot of more progressive movements that are things that are just like objectively need to happen. Let me see if I can find things really closely tied to religion. We've talked about these on stream before. When you talk about something like access to contraception, okay, you really can't be against this unless it's for a religious reason. But there are still a lot of people in the United States that are against access to contraception, which is bizarre because access to contraception is not only good because it decreases crime, it decreases broken families, it decreases reliance on a welfare state by creating broken families, right? It's also good because it decreases abortions, right? Less people getting knocked up means less people getting abortions. But if you look in like southern states and whatnot, like you can find like very clear links to like these are states with high access to contraception and low teen birth rate. These are states with low access to contraception, high teen birth rate. A lot of these states happen to be in the South where people are very religious, right? There are a lot of issues like that. When you talk about like gay rights in the United States, should gay people be allowed to marry? right? Or should they be hidden in the closet? Don't ask, don't tell. Fuck them. Leave them out to whatever. Fuck gay people, right? These are generally religious people that are against like gay rights and whatnot. Do you think that Christian symbols and money and the anthem should be removed to make America more secular? Personally, yeah, I think religion is a fucking scourge on humanity. In every place where it manifests itself, it would be better off without it, but that's just me. How many of the 4 yeah, like there's like 4 million, I think 3 or 4 million Muslims that live in America. I mean, like these people are not like the radicalized. At Destiny, Christians stand against regressive ideals. You want access to contraceptions, fine, but you conflate that being paid for by others via taxes instead of personal responsibility. Let me introduce you to the real world, dog, because you probably don't know much about it. If somebody goes out, knocks somebody up, has a fucking kid, pieces the fuck out, and that woman is living off welfare for the rest of her life, guess who's paying for it, dude? Would you rather buy her some fucking birth control, or would you rather pay for her kid for the next fucking 18 years, and then pay for the extra cop that's gonna be needed to police the street where this kid is out fucking gangbanging and shit, right? Because of broken families, because of people born to single parent households in fucking poverty, right? Who are also leeching off the system, who are taking money out of the system by going to fucking jail and shit, right? What would you rather pay for? Do you want to pay for a fucking condom, or do you want to pay for some 18-year-old kid and a fucked up woman's life for the rest of her life, right? Because she's going to be on welfare forever, right? And the kid's probably going to be too, right? Why would, like, this is one of, it's very rare. Usually I'm open to arguments for certain things, but this moves into a no-brainer category. If you're against, like, I want contraception to be as fucking free and available as possible, and this is coming from somebody with a fucking oops baby. My child was a fucking accident. Fuck. Contraception needs to be as free as fucking water, dude. The less people that are having kids who don't need to have kids, who aren't ready to have kids, the better off everybody is. I'm pro-life. I don't like abortion. I still think it should be legal for pragmatic reasons, and I think it should be available to everybody, and I would pay for it if I had to, okay? Because we've decided that as a society, but I don't like abortions. What's the easiest way to get rid of abortions? More access to contraception. Like, it's a no-brainer. It helps so many ways to society. I will go down and I will buy fucking 100 people, 100 bitches fucking birth control all day long. I'll put on my fucking monthly paycheck. Like, I will do that if it means they're not having children, because it's so much more beneficial to society. It's so much cheaper. Like, it's so much better in every single conceivable, measurable way. And all of these negatives that result from them not having access to contraception, you're paying for whether you like it or not in one way or another, right? Even if you remove them off the tax bracket and you remove them off of all the federal fucking payrolls, they're still going to be committing crimes in cities. They're still going to be reducing economic opportunity for cities that have to deal with them. You're still going to have to pay emergency services to service these people. Like, it's a no-brainer, dude. Circumcision is another really, really fun, that's a really fun meme in the fucking West. There's a lot of fucking, it's funny because the thing that bothers me, I guess, about people in the West is there are so many parallels between extremist Islam thought and a lot of Christian thought in the West, right?